The best way to make your dreams come true is to wake up. Neptune says, lie to me, keep my dream alive. You need to know when to wake up. And I want to say the most psychic of the Neptune houses are the... What does Neptune symbolize in astrology? It's the planet of disillusionment, illusions and delusions about our own capabilities, about who we are, about what really defines reality. With Neptune, we can have a tendency to create our own reality, create our own, sometimes even universes in our own minds. You know, Neptune just pretends everything is fine, but it just chooses not to see the imperfections, the things that are actually wrong beneath the surface. Neptune doesn't want to deal with wrinkles, doesn't want to deal with, what could go wrong or what is actually already going wrong. It just kind of glosses over all of that and just lives in its own little fantasy world of everything is great, everything is fine, giving people constantly the benefit of the doubt, at the same time just taking on all the burdens of the world. It is a very selfless, compassionate planet, but to what extent? Where does that end? Neptune is really all about unconditional love for the entire world. It goes all the way to the ends of the cosmos and accepts everybody who is within that realm, and just takes on all of the burdens, all of the collective sometimes that people put out into the world, and it just makes excuses for it. Neptune really creates a fantasy world for the individual's birth chart, and it gives them sort of rose-colored glasses or fantasy goggles that they can see the world through, see that particular area of their chart with rose-colored glasses. Today I'll be covering Neptune through the houses, so you can look at which area of your chart or what part of your life do you tend to really romanticize, do you tend to escape through, do you tend to create a whole entire fantasy world around. Neptune is just very glamorous. It can be really confusing just trying to pinpoint exactly what it is or trying to really define it in concrete, tangible terms. Neptune is very slippery. It's a very slippery, foggy, hazy, confusing planet. And that being said, it can govern all that is not real, not present or based in reality. Neptune says, lie to me, keep my dream alive, or else I will die, or else I just can't go on with life. It is the savior, the martyr. It takes on the burdens of all of humanity, and it's extremely sensitive. The house that it's in can show where you enjoy escaping, what you use to escape reality or escape the ugliness of the world. Coping mechanisms is shown through Neptune. So Neptune, as you might know, is a generational planet, and so people within your age group or around your birth year are going to share the same sign of Neptune. So looking at where the house that Neptune occupies in your birth shows where you would like to idealize or see the perfect vision or ideal that your own generation wants to see in the world, where you are going to put that idealism into, what part of your life you're going to idealize and see what you want to see based on what the Neptune sign dictates. So we're going to go through Neptune through all the houses in this video. And if you have not looked up your birth chart yet, or you are still new to astrology, first of all, welcome to my channel. I'm glad you clicked on this video and that you found my channel somehow, because I do make astrology videos geared especially for beginners. So I'm glad that you're here, and I hope that you can learn some things from my channel. Yeah, my name is Melissa. I'm a local Capricorn moon. It's nice to meet you. Please hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you can be informed whenever it is that I post. And I will leave a link in the description of this video where you can look up your birth chart, and you will need to know your birth time and your birthplace before you can look up where any of your planets are in your birth chart. Yeah, make sure you go ahead and do that and look at the house that Neptune is in your chart, and then come back to this video and hopefully you can gain some insight on what it means to have your Neptune in that particular house. So let's go ahead and get started with Neptune in the first house. This is all about the fantasy of the self. The appearance can be very dreamy, very soft and sensitive and sort of romantic. It has these people tend to have a really far away look in their eyes, like they're off daydreaming or they're escaping through their own thoughts or something. And the self tends to be the realm of the fantasy world. The fantasy is created around the persona and what the persona could be. So it can take on different personalities, it can take on different impressions from other people, taking in different energies and absorbing it and sort of incorporating it into its own personality. And it can be like this whole jumble of different people or collective personalities. You can be anything and anyone that you want, really, or anything or anyone that you think other people need you to be or want you to be. So it kind of leads to the question of, who are you really? You often have to ask yourself this question of, who am I? And continue to try to redefine and reconstruct what it means to really be you, and be you as an individual, as your own entity. Like I said, you can just continually absorb different personalities throughout your life and sort of take on this chameleon-like personality. You tend to idealize yourself. You tend to idealize what you are all about and how it is that you come off to others. It can be something that's not very clear for you in particular. Your body can also be very sensitive, prone to just absorbing different energies, like I said, and that can manifest physically. You can also be somebody who really likes to experiment with makeup and just have that aspect of changing your appearance constantly, changing up your look and trying new things, and the whole just glamour of it all, just being able to cover up imperfections and sort of present yourself in this really ideal way. With Neptune in the second house, you have created a fantasy around your personal resources and just your stuff, basically. Money tends to slip through your fingers. You can end up giving into money or just giving into your personal possessions, almost like you are at its mercy. You try to find healing through money and through collecting things, through building a collection of some sort. You might think that you have actually a lot more than you really do. So that's sort of the disillusionment that surrounds this area. Glossing over the details of what you really have, the really getting a good grip realistically on what you do have, what you do own, and how much you have. That sort of thing can be sort of confusing for you sometimes, or just something that you don't really want to face the reality of it. You can romanticize different objects, different physical material things, just the idea of having something is very, you can easily romanticize that and see it as something that can probably save you. Fantasizing about having a new phone, for example. You might think that it's going to be the end of all your problems and you're going to be a better person because of it, or something like that. Personal possessions are your way of escaping, and just having things and creating security based on material possessions is your way of escape, and it's your form of security. You also value compassion in the world, value the idea of dreams and romance. You value your own sense of fantasy, the ability to fantasize and create your own reality. You might also enjoy glamorous objects, enjoying really nice luxury items. With Neptune in the third house, there's a fantasy taking place within your thought life, within your mind, basically. In your everyday thinking and communication with others, there is that daydreaminess, that creativity and imagination that really marks your way of speaking, your way of expressing your own thoughts. You can easily take on the thoughts of others and just absorb their energy. This makes you extremely sensitive, particularly in the mental area, because Neptune is super psychic. It is this sponge, so wherever it is that it falls in your chart, you can easily soak things up like a sponge. And with the third house, it is all about the mental realm, and so you can easily gain and just have insight into the thoughts of other people. Your way of speech, it can be seen as very mystical, very spiritual, something sort of otherworldly about it. And you can also have a tendency to cover up or just touch up the truth about what you really think, about your true opinions about things. You do not want to rock the boat. You do not want to step on other people, and so there can be a tendency to gloss over the details, over what you really think, or sort of dress it up somehow so that it's not completely 100% realistic or representative of your true thoughts or your true opinions. But you can also be a really good storyteller, because the imagination is so very much present in this placement. The storytelling and the imagination and the creativity of just dressing up your speech or dressing up a whole story will make you a really good author or songwriter or poet, and your choice of escape is through the media. It can be through like fantasy books or fantasy types of media where you can really exercise your imagination, or like it makes you think about things. It supports your daydreams. It like helps you daydream basically. You can use words as your escape too. So yeah, just like any type of mental skill or mental hobby that really exercises your brain can be an escape for you. You can also have definite skills in, you can also have definite like psychic or spiritual or creative skills. Some type of healing skill as well could be prominent with Neptune in the 3rd house. With Neptune in the 4th house, can create a fantasy of the past. You might be somebody who lives through your past or pretends like the past or your past memories are okay or better than what they really were. You can use your memories as a form of escape. You also probably play the role of the savior in your family, the person who's always just taking care of everything and everybody and like just being very selfless. You have a problem with like taking or letting other people take care of your problems for you. So you were sort of like this savior figure in the home. For you, home is a place of refuge, and you wish for everything to really be as perfect as possible at home or within your family. So any family issues or any like past issues you've had like in your ancestry, that's just kind of something that you tend to ignore or gloss over because you just want to pretend like everything is okay or everything is fine. So there's sort of that disillusionment when it comes to family and home. You could also be one to express your creative vision at home somehow, if you can like paint the walls or something, or like, I don't know, decorate, somehow express that creativity or that imagination at home. Your parents could have been absent when you were growing up. You may have had to care for them instead. That's probably where that savior role comes from, is when you were little or when you were supposed to be raised by your parents. It's sort of like you had to care for them instead and sort of like just look after them. And that's where that savior role sort of grew. So that's where the seed was planted. You use your home as a space of retreat to really protect yourself from the harshness of the outside world. You might sleep a lot at home as a result and really like try to go deep into your unconscious self in order to like heal, in order to like recuperate from what you have gained from the outside world, like all the energies you've absorbed. You can go home and sort of like heal yourself and sort of recuperate and get back to yourself from that. With Neptune in the 5th house, there's a fantasy of romance. The artistic expression is really strong with this one. The creative expression, the romanticism is just very much present with Neptune in the 5th house. You might have hobbies or interests surrounding water or some kind of like spiritual themed hobbies. You can use your hobbies as a definite escape. Be in your own little world when you are lost in your hobbies. You can get lost in, letting yourself be a kid and just like catering to the inner child within you. You can use that as an escape. You can also escape through romance, through dating, through all kinds of like fun or creative pursuits. Whatever that might be for you. That can include artistic expression or like creative expression, or like through just having children, through dating, through romance. You can be in love with like the idea of a dream lover or like a fantasy lover. You tend to have really high hopes when you go on dates. You can idealize or like romanticize the idea of your date or the person that you have a crush on, but because it's Neptune, disappointment can often follow that because you sort of like ignore their flaws, right? You sort of just gloss over their flaws or all the red flags, and so later on you can end up being disappointed when you do have to face the reality of things. You're such a hopeless romantic. You're somebody who could probably get easily inspired to create works of art because of love or because of like your muse. You probably have a muse, probably have like a person in mind that inspires you to create works of art. This placement can also be about saving children as well. Just having or sharing or just having like a natural heart for children. Your future children, if you ever have any, can be the ones who will be taking care of you, or you might have kids in an effort to sort of distract yourself from life, or like sort of use them or use the idea of children as an escape. With Neptune in the 6th house, there's a fantasy of the routine. You can escape through your routine, sort of like the way that you cope or self-heal, self-soothe, and just is through any routines that you might have, or through work, through serving others, through helping others. There can be a lot of idealism surrounding the idea of like the perfect routine, or your like perfect everyday routine. What sort of came to mind right now is like how some YouTubers or like vloggers will like post a video about like their everyday morning routine or their everyday like night routine or whatever. They only show like the best parts of their night or their morning. Like they're not going to show themselves without any makeup or like, you know, taking out the trash or whatever, because those are like the little minute details that, you know, Neptune does not want to talk about or admit that it has to deal with. And so like that's sort of something that a Neptune in the 6th house person can do, is sort of like idealize what should be like their everyday routines or their everyday responsibilities, or like even like their work life, their work environment. They can use responsibilities and tasks as a way of escaping or of a way of coping, which, you know, it's not that bad when I think about it now. It's just like other people can be really reckless or crazy with the way that they choose to cope with things, but for Neptune in the 6th house, it comes through taking care of themselves, through like, you know, organizing their sock drawer. How harmless is that? And just like, it definitely could be worse. You can tend to take on too much when it comes to your work responsibilities, or if you're working with other people, you can sort of be this savior role at work where you are taking on too many tasks, or like taking on just basically whatever is thrown at you. For you, serving and helping others is really an act of compassion, and through helping others is sort of like a way of self-soothing, of just like coping through life yourself. There can also be a tendency to just kind of gloss over the details of your work or of like your responsibilities, because there can be some confusion surrounding your everyday tasks or responsibilities. Like some things can like easily slip through where you just don't notice it, and like it kind of goes over your head, because Neptune here does not deal with the details. It does not deal really well with logical mental tasks, like really heavy detailed focus-oriented maintenance. You can also gloss over your health problems. This is also one of those placements where the body, or just like the health in general, can be very sensitive and just easily prone to just absorbing different energies, because the 6th house is all about not just health, but like your everyday activities, your everyday movements, and just the things that you have to do on a basic day-to-day basis. So that can easily affect your health. With Neptune here, it increases the body sensitivity, and health issues can just be very absorbent and easily affected by its surroundings, or by like the everyday daily tasks. You can have also a heart for saving animals and just having compassion for, you know, smaller animals. The 6th house also rules over that. And although it's hard for you to deal with the reality of really being responsible for caring for those animals, so as much as you love them, as much as you want to rescue all these stray kittens in the world, you know, actually taking care of them and like cleaning up after them, you know, that's something that you probably have not really thought about. So with Neptune in the 7th house, there is a fantasy of partnership. You just want to save people. You want to save everybody that you meet and come across. You might try to escape through them, through living through other people, living vicariously through your partners, and like sort of idealizing them as a partner, but also their life as well. So it's like you might think that other people's lives are a lot better than yours. You try to like live through them, or like escape by pretending to be them. You can project your ideals and fantasies upon your partner so that you do not necessarily see them very clearly or see them realistically as they truly are. So that can be a little bit unfair for your partner, just because choosing to see them just how you want them to be and not really as they truly are. With this placement, you can attract the underdog, or just people who need saving, people who are like sort of needy somehow, or just like need attention, need saving, need help. Somebody that you see needs your help and just needs saving. It can also be that the people that you attract, they tend to hide things. They tend to like not always be 100% straightforward with their intentions, with their motivations. And unfortunately, because Neptune is here, you can, like I said, just see whatever it is that you want to see in other people and sort of ignore or just be very oblivious to the fact that they could be lying to you. But this placement is just very, very giving and very selfless and just very understanding of the partners. And hopefully you are attracting the right people, that the right people are coming into your life, and you're able to discern who is good and bad, and like sort of develop a much more critical eye of who you partner with, so that you're not just giving your compassion and understanding to just anybody. Your relationships can have a slippery quality about them where they are not always easily definable. It's hard for you to label your relationships. It's hard for you to really see exactly what is going on. And it's hard for you to not be blinded by your own idealism about your relationships or about your partners. So your partners can easily come and go as they please, and it's sort of like what's kind of coming to mind is just like the idea of being ghosted, or like the concept of ghosting. And so because of that, it's just it can be hard for you to really settle down with a person or have somebody settle down with you, because the partners or the relationships can just be very confusing and just very like hazy and not clear sometimes. There can be that lack of clarity and lack of seeing things and seeing relationships and people clearly, realistically. With Neptune in the 8th house, there is a fantasy of secrecy. You can be psychically, physically, and psychologically just giving too much to your partners. All the while, you could be being cheated of your returns or what they're giving back to you. It's like you just end up with a lot less than what you started, and you're not really being met halfway. You might think that you're getting a lot from your partners, but the reality of it is that like you're just kind of choosing to see what you want to see when it comes to what they're giving back to you. And the reason for this is probably just because you want to see the good in people, and you want to idealize or romanticize the idea that people are sharing themselves with you, and that idea of people just giving themselves to you and really merging souls with you is very, very, very romantic to you. You love that idea. It's really hard for you to face the dark and ugly truths about people when it comes to like facing the reality of who somebody really is. When you and a partner really do open up to each other very deeply and soulfully and emotionally, it's hard for you to accept them and all their baggage as they are. You can kind of see the darkness in other people and like idealize it or romanticize it, and not really face it realistically or handle it as it should be handled, like level-headed and sort of just like properly solved or properly dealt with, I guess you can say. You have the heart and the compassion to help people with their trauma and with their insecurities, but it is just hard for you to see it in a clear light and not like idealize or romanticize it. The sexual connection that you have with others can be extremely spiritual. It can be sort of like this emotional soul bonding experience you have with other people, where they feel like it might feel like a heavenly experience for either or both of you. You can escape through sex, you can escape through intimacy, through exploring other people's psychology and exploring their past, exploring like just trying to figure other people out. That can be your form of escape. Caring for other people's wounds and insecurities is also another form of escape for you. You really understand their pain. You understand and have a lot of compassion for learning about other people's pain. This can make you a really great psychologist or healer. You really feel deeply the traumas and the burdens of other people. There can be a lack of boundaries in that area, where in sharing or in sexual boundaries, there is a lack of understanding of where other people end and where you begin. Where are your needs going to be met, and where do you need to stop caring for other people and like taking on their burdens? You might have a tendency to let other people overpower you or let them take control over you. You can also like gloss over secrets. You can kind of like view secrets and holding things in as a better version of the truth. You would rather deal with that than face the reality, the harsh reality of the truth. And so can lead to dishonesty and just sort of dressing up the truth, dressing up your fears. Oh yeah, and also like going back to the sexuality or the intimacy of Neptune in the 8th house, you might try to save your partners through giving to them sexually, or like because the sex can be really like I mentioned, soul bonding and like very, very emotional, you might be receiving that energy from them, all their burdens and all of their pain, just kind of absorbing it from them and like saving them from that. This is where the sort of savior role can come in for you, is through intimacy and through like sexual partnerships, through sexual give and take. With Neptune in the 9th house, there is a fantasy of the higher mind. It's easy for you to see validity in different philosophies, different like worldviews or spiritual practices and all kinds of just like higher thinking. You see validity and truth in all kinds of beliefs. You can really romanticize the idea of having a belief system, having a life purpose. For you, it can be really important to have a life purpose, or just understanding where you're going in life, or what you are meant to do in life. But you might not always see this area or this adventure very clearly. You might like the idea of having a life purpose, or just having like a bigger, larger calling in life. But when it comes to actually pursuing it and really choosing your own morals and ethics and beliefs in life, it's hard for you to discern what is right and what is wrong, and like really choosing for yourself, making up your own mind for yourself what it is you will believe and what you will subscribe to. But your philosophy in life is to be very compassionate and to be giving to others, to always be giving, to almost never take. And this placement also has a very spiritual or mystical feel to it, sort of like a wanderer, somebody who just likes to sort of wander through life, either spiritually or mentally, through books, through learning, or literally like just physically travel the world. It's a very much a free spirit sort of energy. You could see your life purpose as somebody who should be giving, someone who understands people, someone who is just like taking on the burdens of everybody, who is here to help save others. That you could sort of see that as your life purpose. You might try to find escape through traveling, through learning, through expanding your mind, through continuing your higher education, through taking on different subjects or like learning new things. You could romanticize the idea of being a scholar or having a degree or just finishing university. You could also be somebody who idealizes or romanticizes foreign cultures, seeing the beauty in everything, in every culture. Everywhere you travel around the world, you see something to appreciate. But you might not always get your facts 100% straight when it comes to that, when it comes to like examining or exploring different cultures or religions. You might be somebody who likes to travel in order to help other people, in order to further a good cause. You might be traveling out of compassion, out of some kind of like compassionate reason, such as that. With Neptune in the 10th house, there is a fantasy of the public self. You might not present your true self to the world, not 100%. You want to appear perfect. You want to appear a very certain way, just in a way that erases all your imperfections and nobody sees your dark past or the mistakes you've done, and others will tend to see whatever they want to see from you. As far as your reputation is concerned, your reputation can easily be molded and just like shape-shifted into whatever other people can like fit you into, like whatever role they want to put you into it. That's sort of how your name will be passed around in the world. You can escape through the idea of success, through trying to achieve a higher position in society, but you also idealize or romanticize the idea of being your own boss, of like being famous, of being known all around the world and like achieving like this high position in society. It's very romantic for you and very much a fantasy for you. But with this placement can also be really lethargic in actually putting the effort into reaching the top, because the details are sort of missing and the logistics are not 100% worked out with this placement of how they are going to get there. Yeah, you want to be at the top, and yeah, you want to be your own boss, and yes, you want to be famous, but how are you going to get there? And what are the concrete, realistic steps you can put into getting that vision or creating that vision? You might have illusions surrounding the idea of success, illusions about your own achievements. You might also cover up the truth sometimes about your reputation, cover up the truth and just sort of like gloss over your mistakes and what you've done in the past. But you're somebody who really believes in the idea of authority. You kind of see the authorities, government officials, whoever it is that you consider an authority figure, you kind of see them in a certain light where they can do no wrong in your eyes, like they're completely perfect, and that there's this sort of fanaticism surrounding those figures or those role models. This can also be the placement of a spiritual leader, somebody who is always just giving of themselves, somebody who other people can see as sort of like higher than everyone else. You seem very compassionate and just very, very giving. You can almost be like elevated to the status of like a spiritual leader as a result of that. So I'm editing this video in the car right now. I didn't film Neptune in the 11th house, but I'm gonna cut in right now so that I can do that for you. With Neptune in the 11th house, we have the fantasy of future goals. There's a lot of idealism surrounding our future goals and what we would like to see in people, in society, in just the world at large, and the kind of goals that we might set for not just ourselves but for like all of humanity, like what we would ideally love to see happen in the world and what kind of progress we would like to see in the world. And those kinds of ideals, they can be sort of unrealistic and just a little too out there or a figment of our imagination almost. There is definitely a sort of mystical or spiritual quality to what we would like to see in the world, and the sort of visions and goals that we have for the world. Our idea of progress in society is that we see everybody just being very compassionate towards each other and being selfless, being giving, and having unconditional love. And that is a very high expectation to have for people, or just for to expect that out of every single person on earth. That is sort of where the idealism comes in here with Neptune in the 11th house. It's just they probably see the best in a lot of people, in all kinds of people, and so their position in society or in whatever groups that they might identify with is just the person who is always giving, the person who is always compassionate and just understanding of everybody's differences, everyone's different backgrounds. And that's sort of like the role that you play in the larger collective. In your friendships, you might also be the one who is always giving as well, the one who's basically always listening, always just giving as much as they can, whether that be their time, their energy. This just makes for a very compassionate and understanding friend. And you might also have very high expectations for your friendships as well, like you would like for them to be as perfect and ideal as possible. It's kind of like you'll probably meet somebody and become friends with them and just sort of ignore their flaws and ignore, like, I guess, the uglier sides of them, and you just want to have the perfect idea of what a friend should be. You're just very idealistic with the types of people that you choose to associate with. You might also find that there is some deception taking place within your friendships, where other people are not always presenting themselves as how they truly are, or it could just be the fact that you like to see the best in people, and that's honestly not your fault that people take advantage of you that way, or like they see that you are so idealistic and so hopeful about them that they just hide who they really are and hide the parts of them that are not so great, and then it just ends up coming out later on and disappointing you. And you might also be somebody who is very much involved in different organizations or charities because you have the heart to help people, and the heart and the compassion, like the understanding of just like the whole world, or just different groups, different types of people, especially those who don't really have a voice, or people who are mostly overlooked in society. And so you definitely have the heart for them. And with Neptune in the 11th house, the compassion just lies in that area where you have the compassion and understanding for the underdog. You might find that your dreams and goals might be so lofty that it's hard for you to really see them practically in real, tangible, practical terms. Oftentimes they just kind of stay dreams. They just kind of stay this pretty perfect ideal image of a daydream, and they don't necessarily always come to fruition. There is that disillusionment when it comes to your goals and your visions. So this area is where you should really try to put more structure towards, where there are clearly defined goals and real steps that you can take to make your dreams a reality, or make your visions for the future, or visions for like a better society, make that come true. With Neptune in the 12th house, there is a fantasy of the inner world. This is where true escapism comes out. Really escaping through your own daydreams and through your own solitude, through sleeping, through dreaming. This is the house of the unconscious. You can feel the pain so easily of other people, of, not just the people directly next to you or who you see on an everyday basis, but the pain of the world, just the pain of the collective. And you can carry the weight of the world on your shoulders because you are so much in tune with the global unconscious. You just want to save the world. You just want to save everybody and share that compassion and understanding with as much people as you can, because you know that the world needs it. You know how much pain there is in the world and how much suffering there is. Neptune is really at home here, and Neptune really goes all out in the 12th house. It really fantasizes, it really escapes, and just has that savior, takes on that savior role, just literally just for everybody. But you can be ashamed of your tendency to fantasize. You do not like the idea of other people catching you in your own fantasy world. You just don't want to appear weak or soft or like you have a heart. You aren't really proud of that side of you. So there is that repressed sensitivity, that repressed compassion that comes out only when you are in solitude and when you feel most comfortable by yourself. And your fantasies can really go to the extremes where you really are truly seeing only what you want to see in life. It's like when you are alone with your own creativity, your own imagination, your imagination can really just go wild. You might even have like spiritual experiences or weird like paranormal experiences when you are by yourself. You can be addicted to escaping. You can be addicted to just being alone, of just escaping through your own alone time, through putting yourself in exile. This is the house of repression and denial. And so you can escape through just constantly just like denying yourself, denying your own ego, denying that you even exist. To put it plain and simple, you probably really enjoy sleeping. Just, that's like the fastest and easiest way of just escaping life and just escaping existence in life. Diving deep into your unconscious and like letting that be where you exist for a little bit. You can escape through your own unconscious mind, through trying to lucid dream, trying to get on a higher spiritual plane, whatever that might represent for you. You can get lost in your own dream self, in idealizing who you could be, having this alter ego maybe, of just denying your true self, your true identity, which is your first house, and instead like really indulging in your dream self, or who you would like to be, because it's everything that you're not in this life. You might try to run away from yourself and run away from your problems, run away from all of your waking life, and just escape in solitude and exile. So all in all, in my opinion, the most socially sensitive of all of the Neptune houses, or like the Neptune placements that I just discussed, the desire to save and help other people, where that compassion is really powerful, is probably Neptune in the 7th, 8th, 11th, and 12th houses. And I want to say the most psychic of the Neptune houses are the 1st, 3rd, 8th, and 12th houses. And I would also say the most creative and artistic placements for Neptune through the houses are the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, and 12th houses. So my advice with dealing with a slippery planet such as Neptune, this very confusing and just out of touch with reality kind of energy, is to try your best not to get carried away with it. It's easy to indulge in and like escape through your Neptune house, right? But it's important to know the difference between fantasy and reality, and like really facing that truth, really strongly defining that line between imagination and reality, and idealism versus the truth of things, especially when it comes to that house that Neptune is in for you. You need to know when to wake up. There's a time to dream and there's a time to wake up and face the truth and get down to work about if you want to fix things, or if you have a certain vision or ideal vision that you have for that area of your life, you know, take the time to step out of the dream and like put in the work. I saw this quote the other day saying, the best way to make your dreams come true is to wake up. Put in the effort to put structure into your dreams, into your ideals. Because a dream without a plan is just a dream, you know, it's never going to materialize if you do not wake up. See it for what it is, be able to face the reality of what it is right now, and, you know, work towards what you want to see out of it, what you want to make out of it. I love the side of Neptune that increases creativity, increases compassion, and seeing the good in life. You know, that is great. But I've also seen this parallel, or this symbolism, this metaphor of Neptune sort of representing sugar, refined sugar. And with Neptune, similar like with sugar, you need to be careful with going to the extremes with it, of really indulging and being excessive with indulging in your Neptune dreams. You know, take it in small doses, and also be a good idea to just have clear definitions of surrounding that Neptune house and trying to see it clearer, trying to make much more concrete sense out of it, instead of just, you know, wildly, abandoningly indulging in it and escaping through that fantasy. Okay, so that about wraps up my Neptune through the houses video. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something from it and that you found it informative. And if you did, please give it a big thumbs up so that it helps support my channel. I'd really appreciate that. Again, my name is Melissa, your local Capricorn moon. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications. Comment below what is your Neptune house. Again, I'm going to leave a link to your birth chart, or to a birth chart calculator, down in the description, so you can look up your own birth chart, find out where all your planets are. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for the next video.